Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. I am absolutely pumped to dive into this dedicated sprint race digest, because we are unpacking the breathtaking Saturday shootout action from the 2026 Hungarian Grand Prix. If you've been following the season, you know exactly how critical these sprints have become for the championship. And well, this weekend, it definitely did not disappoint. We've got intense track battles, jaw-dropping overtakes, and some massive championship implications to cover.
So, the big question hanging over the paddock all weekend was simply this: who could actually conquer the brand new Balaton Park circuit? We're talking about a frantic 13-lap dash on a highly technical layout that demands absolute, unwavering precision. With the championship fight tightening up, every single rider knew that mastering this track during the sprint could completely make or break their weekend.
All right, Section 1, Hungarian GP Sprint Stage.
To really understand how this race unfolded, we first need to talk about the stage itself, because the physical setting the riders faced was nothing short of intense. First off, they were up against a compact 4.075-kilometer layout, packed with these stop-and-go elements that make overtaking extremely tricky. But you know what the real curveball was? A fresh bitumen treatment right around Turn 1. Because it hadn't fully settled, the raw power of the bikes was literally tearing it up, causing dangerously flying stones. I mean, just imagine navigating a 300-horsepower missile while dodging a high-speed gravel attack from the bike right in front of you. It severely compromised visibility and safety, which totally altered everyone's risk management out there.
Moving on to Section 2, Marquez's dominant pole.
Before the sprint could even begin, the riders had to survive a massively high-stakes qualifying session to secure that crucial front row. And let me tell you, the margins were absolutely razor-thin. Despite a small crash earlier in the day, Marc Marquez delivered a total masterclass on his Ducati GP26. He clocked up blistering 1 minute 36.785 seconds to grab the top spot. But breathing right down his neck was the young phenom, Pedro Acosta on the KTM, who missed out on pole by just 0.053 seconds. That is nothing. Rounding out the front row was Fermin Aldeguer, proving his pure speed on the Gresini Ducati by finishing just 0.3 off the pace. The stage was perfectly set, the seasoned veteran versus the rising stars.
Section 3. Race. Turbulent early stages. Let's get to the lights-out moment.
The start of any sprint is a pure, chaotic adrenaline rush. And given how tough it is to pass at Balaton Park, the riders knew they had to make their moves early. As they charged into the first lap, Marquez flawlessly converted his pole position into the race lead, basically getting to dictate the pace in clean air. But the real drama, that kicked off on lap 2. Title contender Jorge Martin, desperate to make up ground, attempted a super aggressive pass on Diego Moreira. And, well, he pushed just a bit too hard and ran wide at turn 9. He didn't get a penalty, but honestly, that mistake cost him significant track position and time. It dropped him right down the order in a race where literally every single point matters.
Section 4, Race. Fierce battles.
With Marquez trying to completely check out of the front, the focus shifted to the absolute war zone right behind him. The mid-pack was chaotic, with riders constantly trading paint and pushing the absolute limits of their front-end grip. Just one lap after Martin's mistake, Turn 9 claimed another victim. On lap 3, Fermin Aldeguer had a massive, heart-stopping front-end moment. He somehow managed to keep the bike upright, which is incredible, but the time loss ruined his early momentum. Meanwhile, the absolute most captivating battle of the mid-race was Pedro Acosta masterfully defending second place. Acosta's KTM was under relentless pressure from the charging Aprilia of championship leader Marco Bezzecchi, who was carving his way through the field after a tough start from 6th. Acosta had to ride so defensively, using every single inch of the track to shut the door on the Italian. And you know, this perfectly illustrates the incredible maturity of Pedro Acosta. After the race, rather than complaining about a missed victory, he was super pragmatic. He just came out and said, "I knew I wasn't at Marc's level." Acosta realized that pushing beyond the limit to try and catch Marquez in those treacherous conditions, that was a recipe for a crash. So instead, he intelligently settled into his rhythm and successfully held off Bezzecchi for a highly valuable second place. That right there is championship-level thinking from such a young rider.
Section 5, Sprint Race Final Results.
So, after 13 white-knuckle laps, the checkered flag finally waved. Marc Marquez took a completely flawless lights-to-flag victory, proving he was absolutely untouchable at Balaton Park today. Pedro Acosta held on to second, which, by the way, is KTM's best sprint result of the 2026 season so far. Marco Bezzecchi pulled off some incredible damage limitation, recovering from 6th on the grid to complete the podium in 3rd. Raul Fernandez brought his Trackhouse Aprilia home in a really solid 4th, while Fermin Aldeguer somehow salvaged 5th despite that scary moment on lap 3.
Now looking at the rest of the top 10, Jorge Martin could only recover to 6th place after his lap 2 mistake. And yeah, that's a tough pill to swallow for a title contender. Diogo Moreira finished an impressive 7th, followed by Enea Bastianini in 8th. And right at the very edge of the points, we had an incredibly tight finish. Reigning champion Francesco Bagnaia took 9th, narrowly edging out Fabio Di Giannantonio by just 0.232 seconds as they crossed the line.
Okay, I have to draw your attention to a truly wild statistic from this race. 18. With this commanding performance, Marc Marquez officially claimed his 18th career sprint win. Why is that a big deal? Because it ties in perfectly with Jorge Martin for the all-time record of sprint victories. It's a massive psychological boost for Marquez, and it proves that on a Saturday, he is still one of the absolute most lethal riders on the grid.
Finally, Section 6, latest point rankings. So how does all of this action reshape the 2026 title fight? Well, this sprint race fundamentally altered the dynamic at the top of the standings. By fighting his way up to 3rd place while Martin floundered down in 6th, Marco Bezzecchi now sits at 180 points. He's pushed his advantage over Jorge Martin, who's currently sitting at 160 points. That is a crucial 20-point gap at the top of the championship. Bezzecchi absolutely capitalized on his rival's mistake, turning what could have been a really difficult weekend into a major strategic victory.
And that leaves us with a burning question as we look ahead to Sunday. With a 20-point deficit staring him right in the face, can Jorge Martin mentally reset and strike back in the main race? Or is the momentum now firmly, undeniably in the hands of Marco Bezzecchi? The tension in the paddock is palpable, the stakes have literally never been higher, and this championship fight is only going to get fiercer. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep your eyes on the track because this season is turning out to be an absolute classic. Catch you next time.